High in the remote canyons of the American Southwest, a remarkable story is etched into the very rock itself. Here, tucked into immense sun-drenched alcoves, are the silent cities of an ancient people. These are the cliff dwellings, extraordinary structures of stone and timber that cling precariously to sheer rock faces. They stand as a profound testament to human ingenuity and resilience, a testament to a people who looked at a seemingly impossible landscape and saw a home. To visit these places today is to step back in time, to walk through rooms where families once gathered, and to look out upon the same breathtaking vistas that they did nearly 1,000 years ago. These are not mere primitive shelters. They are sophisticated architectural achievements, multi-story complexes that housed entire communities. Imagine, if you will, the daily life that unfolded on these narrow ledges. Children played in the sunlit plazas, women ground corn using stone metards, and men returned from hunts in the canyons below. These dwellings were perfectly adapted to their environment, offering shelter from the elements and protection from unseen threats. They represent a deep, intimate connection between a people and the land they inhabited. Among the most spectacular of these ancient sites is Mesa Verde, located in what is now southwestern Colorado. The name, Spanish for green table, hints at the forested plateau upon which these people lived for centuries. But their most famous creations are found below the mesa top, within the canyon walls. Here, between about 1190 and 1300 AD, the Ancestral Puebloans constructed some of the most complex and best-preserved cliff dwellings in North America. The largest of these, known as Cliff Palace, is a marvel of ancient urban planning. It is not a single building, but a sprawling complex of over 150 individual rooms and more than 20 circular kivas, the subterranean chambers used for ceremonies. Cliff Palace was a bustling community, likely housing around 100 people. It was built with an astonishing precision, its walls following the natural curvature of the great alcove that shelters it. The builders used locally quarried sandstone, shaping the blocks with harder stones and binding them with a mortar of soil, water, and ash. Timber for the roofs and floors was hauled from the mesa top above, a Herculean task in itself. Further south, in the Verde Valley of Arizona, we find another astonishing example of this architectural tradition, Montezuma Castle. Despite its name, it has no connection to the Aztec Emperor Montezuma. It was named by early American explorers who were awestruck by its grandeur. Built by the Sinagua people, a culture related to the Ancestral Puebloans, this structure dates back to between 1100 and 1425 AD. It is a high-rise apartment building of its time, a 5-story, 20-room dwelling, nestled into a recess 100 feet up a sheer limestone cliff. Its location seems almost impossible, a testament to the builder's confidence and skill in working at great heights. Its well-preserved condition is due to its remarkable placement, protected from rain, snow and sun by the deep overhang of the cliff. The construction of these cliff dwellings presents a profound logistical puzzle. How did the Ancestral Puebloans transport tons of stone, heavy wooden beams, and countless gallons of water and mortar up sheer, unforgiving cliff faces? They possessed no cranes, no pulleys, no pack animals. The answer lies in remarkable human strength, incredible endurance, and ingenious simplicity. The primary method for moving materials was human power. Small, manageable sandstone blocks were likely carried by individuals, one by one, up hand and toe-hold trails pecked directly into the rock. These were not wide, comfortable paths, but treacherous vertical routes that required immense skill and bravery to navigate, especially while carrying a load. Imagine the process of raising a large timber beam, perhaps 20 feet long and weighing several hundred pounds, from the canyon floor or the mesa top to the construction site. Archaeological evidence suggests they used a system of teamwork and leverage. A team of builders would have worked together, using strong ropes made from yucca fibers. The tools they used were as simple as they were effective. To quarry the sandstone, they likely used harder stones like granite or quartzite as hammers to break off manageable pieces. Wooden wedges, soaked in water to make them expand, could have been driven into cracks in the rock to split larger slabs. Water, The essential ingredient for the mud mortar that bound the stones together also had to be transported. This likely involved carrying pottery jars filled from springs at the base of the cliffs or from pools on the mesa top. The ancestral Puebloans were not just builders, they were brilliant passive solar engineers. They chose their building sites with a deep understanding of the sun's path across the sky. Most major cliff dwellings are built in south-facing alcoves. This orientation was a deliberate and ingenious choice. During the cold winter months, when the sun is low in the sky, its rays would shine directly into the alcove, striking the stone walls and floors. The thermal mass of the sandstone would absorb this heat during the day and radiate it back out through the night, providing a natural source of warmth and reducing the need for firewood. Conversely, during the peak of summer, when the sun is high overhead, the massive rock overhang of the alcove would act as a natural awning. It cast the entire village into deep, cooling shade during the hottest part of the day. Structural stability was another paramount concern. Building multi-story structures on uneven rock ledges required clever engineering. The builders laid foundation stones directly onto the bedrock of the alcove floor, choosing the largest and flattest stones to create a solid base. The walls themselves were often double or triple coursed, meaning they were 2 or 3 stones thick, providing strength and insulation. They also tapered the walls, making them wider at the base and narrower at the top, which lowered the center of gravity and increased stability. Safety was woven into the very fabric of their designs. The high, inaccessible locations offered obvious protection. Entrances were often small, T-shaped doorways which are easy to defend and may have had a cultural significance as well. Access to the dwellings was controlled by a series of ladders that could be drawn up at night or in times of danger, effectively sealing the community off from the world below. These were not just houses, they were defensible fortresses, designed to keep the community safe from potential enemies and the dangers of the wilderness. The primary material for the cliff dwellings was sandstone, a resource that was abundant throughout the region. The builders were expert geologists in their own right, able to identify the best layers of rock for their purposes. They quarried blocks directly from the cliff sides, often using fallen boulders from the alcove itself. The size of the blocks varied considerably. For foundational courses and main walls, they used large, roughly hewn stones to provide mass and stability. For the upper stories and finer work, they carefully shaped smaller, more uniform blocks, creating a smoother and more refined finish. This careful selection and placement of stones gave the walls both strength and a distinct aesthetic quality. These stones were held together by a mortar that was a testament to their resourcefulness. The mixture consisted of local soil, water, and often a binding agent like ash or clay. After the walls were constructed, they were often finished with a plaster made of a finer clay mixture. This plaster could be smoothed and sometimes decorated with painted designs, or even impressed with fingerprints and corn cobs, leaving a personal and lasting touch from the builders themselves. Timber was the other crucial component, used for roofing, floors, and ladders. The main support beams, called vigas, were typically made from ponderosa pine or Douglas fir, strong woods that had to be harvested from the mesa tops or from more distant forests. They were set into the masonry walls, with smaller poles or latillas laid across them in a perpendicular pattern. The latillas were often laid in herringbone or other decorative patterns, showing that aesthetics were just as important as function. Every element was interconnected. The stone provided the mass and structure, the mortar provided the seal and bond, and the timber provided the support for horizontal surfaces. Together, these 3 components, all sourced from the immediate environment, created homes that have endured for nearly a millennium. The decision to construct entire villages high on cliff faces was not a whim. It was a calculated response to a complex set of environmental, social, and perhaps spiritual pressures. The most widely accepted reason is defense. By the late 12th and 13th centuries, there is archaeological evidence of increased conflict and social stress in the region. Building in a high defensible alcove with limited and controllable access points provided an unparalleled level of security. From their high perches, lookouts could see enemies approaching from miles away. By pulling up their ladders, the community could become almost untouchable, safe within their stone fortress. Beyond security, these locations offered significant climatic advantages. As we have seen, the south-facing alcoves provided passive solar heating in the winter and cooling shade in the summer. This was not just a matter of comfort, but of survival. Access to resources was another critical factor. While the dwellings themselves were high and dry, they were often situated directly above fertile canyon floors or near reliable springs and seeps. The ancestral Puebloans were skilled farmers, cultivating corn, beans and squash in the lands below their cliffside homes. The cliff dwellings provided a secure base from which to manage their agricultural lands. Finally, we cannot discount the possibility of spiritual or cosmological reasons for their choice of location. Many indigenous cultures view the world as having distinct layers: the underworld, the middle world of humans, and the sky world. The kivas, their subterranean ceremonial chambers, connected them to the underworld, while their homes, suspended between earth and sky, placed them in a unique position within this cosmology. The cliffs themselves may have been seen as sacred places, portals to the spirit world. Building their homes within these powerful natural formations may have been a way of living in constant harmony with their spiritual beliefs, a daily affirmation of their place in the universe. The most immediate and daunting challenge for the cliff dwellers was gravity itself. Every aspect of construction and daily life was conducted on narrow ledges, hundreds of feet above the canyon floor. The risk of a fatal fall was constant. The builders overcame this through a combination of incredible skill, balance, and the use of simple but effective safety measures. They likely used yucca fiber ropes as safety lines, anchoring them to sturdy trees or rock formations above the construction site. They moved with a deliberate, practiced confidence, their bodies conditioned to the vertical world. The hand and toe-hold trails they carved were a permanent solution, providing secure, albeit terrifying, routes up and down the cliffs. The weather presented another significant challenge. The builders had to contend with the intense summer heat, sudden and violent thunderstorms, and the freezing temperatures of winter. Construction was likely a seasonal activity, undertaken during the more temperate months of spring and autumn. During construction, they had to protect their work, especially the wet mortar, from being washed away by rain or damaged by frost. The clever choice of sheltered alcoves was their primary defense against the weather, but they would have also used temporary shelters and coverings, made from hides or woven mats, to protect themselves and their building materials during sudden storms. Lifting and placing the heavy materials, particularly the massive viga roof beams, was a supreme test of their engineering skills. Without complex machinery, they relied on brute force combined with clever physics. They would have used long wooden poles as levers to prise stones into place. To raise heavy beams, they may have constructed temporary ramps or scaffolding from timber, allowing them to slide or roll the beams upwards. The sight of a team of builders maneuvering a massive log into position on a narrow ledge is a powerful image of their collaborative spirit and problem-solving abilities. Daily life also had its challenges. Every resource, from water for drinking and cooking to firewood for warmth, had to be hauled up the cliffs. For over a century, the great cliff dwellings of Mesa Verde and other sites were vibrant centers of life. Then, in a remarkably short period, they were gone. By the year 1300 AD, nearly all of the cliff dwellings in the Four Corners region had been abandoned. This mass exodus has been one of the great mysteries of North American archaeology. The answer, scientists now believe, is not a single event, but a convergence of several powerful factors. The most significant factor appears to have been a prolonged and severe drought. Tree ring dating reveals that a devastating drought, sometimes called the Great Drought, gripped the region from about 1276 to 1299. This was not just a few dry years, it was more than 2 decades of failed rains. Without food and water, the communities could simply not survive. Faced with starvation, drought and social turmoil, the ancestral Puebloans made a difficult but necessary choice: to leave. This was not a sudden disappearance, but a deliberate and organized migration. Archaeological and cultural evidence shows that they migrated south and east towards the Rio Grande Valley in New Mexico and the Hopi Mesas in Arizona. Their descendants are the modern Pueblo peoples of today, who carry on the traditions of their ancestors. The cliff dwellings were not abandoned because of a mysterious catastrophe, but because their inhabitants chose to move on to ensure their survival. Today, these ancient structures are not just tourist attractions, they are invaluable scientific laboratories. Archaeologists, scientists, and engineers use a host of modern techniques to unlock the secrets held within their walls. One of the most powerful tools is dendrochronology, or tree ring dating. Furthermore, the study of these sites is increasingly a collaborative effort. Archaeologists now work closely with the descendants of the ancestral Puebloans, the modern Pueblo peoples. Their oral histories, traditions, and spiritual knowledge provide an invaluable context for the archaeological findings. This partnership between science and tradition is creating a much richer, more complete, and more human understanding of the people who built these extraordinary homes in the cliffs, honoring their legacy and ensuring their story is told with the respect it deserves.